Welcome to a full buyer's guide video for the 2015 to 2023 Lexus RCF. We're going to cover some great resources that you can use to do your research, along with reliability, maintenance, the current buying market and pricing of the RCF. These are obviously going to be post-pandemic prices, and in general, we'll see if this car is going to be right for you, because a lot of people really like the RCF because this is the most affordable way of buying into a performance Lexus product. Obviously, I know that the ISF exists, and that was also a great vehicle, but sadly that is really old now. And if you do find an ISF for 25 grand, yeah, that's going to be pretty clapped out with over 150,000 miles on it. Some people are going to be okay paying that because they're going to say, oh, it's just a Toyota, it'll last forever. So God bless those people. They can go out and they can buy that. But for most, I think they want a nicer and more cleaner vehicle when they're spending in excess of 30 grand. So a 2015 RCF, that's going to be your cheapest bet. But stay tuned till the end when I talk about the true value proposition of this car and if it's going to be worth it for you. Okay, let's get started and let's talk about reliability first. Okay, my most favorite resource to use when looking at a car's reliability, it's going to be nhtsa.gov. You come to the site, you enter in 2015 Lexus RCF, and you can see the complaints, the recalls, any current investigations, and the manufacturer communications. This section is also known as TSBs, or Technical Service Bulletins. Why is this important? Because when you come onto the site, you see 196 manufacturer communications. These TSBs, they are essentially all of the problems that the manufacturer finds with their own product, and they publicly disclose these issues with us, the consumer. Now, when you see that number 196, that does not mean that the 2015 RCF has 196 unique and different issues. There's actually a lot of redundancy here, meaning the same thing being repeated over and over again, and there's also a lot of frivolous things. So you really have to go through each category and read them for yourself, and I have done that here, and I am pleased to say the RCF is actually a really solid machine. There's not a whole lot of issues with it. Almost all of this, they're all just communications between the factory and the various dealerships telling them the correct protocol and how to identify an issue and how to fix certain things. So it doesn't even have to do with any issues, really. It's just tips and tricks for the dealerships on how to fix something. That's mostly what you find here. The biggest thing with these cars, it was the fuel pump issue, and there was a recall for that, so that's no problem. The dealership will take care of those fuel pump issues. And you can hop over to the complaints section as well. And this is a good spot. This is where actual owners submit their complaints. So this is also very useful to look at. There are 10 complaints here for the 2015 RCF. Again, with the fuel propulsion system, you have a seat issue where the front passenger side seat is squeaking when it's being electronically tilted. Other people have reported that these seats are kind of creasing, and Lexus has done a great job in providing owners with new seats and new leather materials to go ahead and fix up the interior when issues arise. So I really appreciate Lexus in taking care of issues when they come up for the most part. There are also people who have had oil consumption issues with high mileage RCFs, but thankfully I don't really think there are any carbon buildup issues because the 5-liter V8 is port and direct injected, so there shouldn't be any real carbon buildup. But keep in mind, with a lot of modern day vehicles, there typically is some form of oil consumption that can take place. Hasn't happened to everyone, but certainly something to look out for as the car continues to age. However, one of the TSBs that I found to be kind of annoying is an inner portion of the rear fender arch that can experience water intrusion and causes rust. It's another reason why I'm not a huge fan of used vehicles dealing with rust. Very obnoxious, but fortunately it's one main trouble spot that they found, and that is a TSB on the nhtsa.gov website. And another problem, where this was also noted in the Club Lexus forum as well, but there was a HVAC servo motor malfunction where the front passenger side AC, it wouldn't blow proper cold air into the cabin. And this issue happened at around 25,000 miles for this individual. And we also saw this issue on the Club Lexus forum. And I think this individual under warranty had like 6 servo motors replaced for his HVAC, and that completely fixed their HVAC issues. That's great that all of this was covered under warranty for people. So obviously, yeah, there are issues with this car, but that's with any vehicle on this planet. For the most part, for the type of performance car that this is, there's not a whole lot of crazy issues. I mean, you go back to those TSBs, you see the majority of them have to do with quote unquote equipment. And again, you go through it, it's a lot of frivolous things, and you're gonna see the paint, there's some subtle paint issues and just little minor things like that. So really on the NHTSA website, there's nothing crazy going on. You have to actually go to the Club Lexus forum to find any major problems. One of which is going to be cars equipped with the TVD. This is the torque vectoring differential, and that's a great system, but it's really not necessary and probably best avoided, because even the regular RCFs, they'll come with a Torsen limited slip diff, and that's really all you need. Because the TVD, if you ever need to replace that, that is going to cost you over $25,000. I actually could not believe it. So I did some more digging, and yes, this is a true number, and Lexus master technicians have quoted people $25,000 or more to replace the TVD if there's any issues. So if you're going to be one of the people who buy this car and you're going to be tracking it, yes, the TVD is great out on the track, but if something ever goes wrong, wow, that is going to be expensive for you to replace or even to repair. So right there, it is best to avoid the TVD cars. There was one individual, I mean, he had a terrible experience with this RCF. There's maybe like 3 or 4 people that I found on the Club Lexus forum that had an utterly horrible experience with it. They bought their cars brand new back in like 2016, and the steering was off. There was a bad alignment at 400 miles. Fuel pumps just kept failing every couple thousand miles, and a check engine light came on at 9,000 miles. So this person was obviously very disappointed. That's really few and far between. I would say for the most part, this is probably the most solid performance car I have ever seen. But it's definitely wise to work under Murphy's Law and to understand that if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, because at the end of the day, this is still a pretty expensive vehicle. And if something does go wrong and you're out of warranty, well, this stuff can be very expensive. So just because the majority of people have had absolutely no problems with their cars, if you end up being that one person who does have the issues, it can add up. So my suggestion is to purchase with a warranty, or you buy the car certified pre-owned, so it just naturally comes with the warranty and you know that you're buying a good, clean car. But if you want to know the issues with the car, come to nhtsa.gov and look at the Club Lexus forum for the vehicle that you are interested in. These are the 2 best resources. Next, let's go ahead and let's talk about maintenance. If you want to find the maintenance schedule for a car, you can use RepairPal as a resource to look up the maintenance schedule, but I've noticed that not all of this is 100% accurate. The best thing you can do is to go to the manufacturer themselves, in this case Lexus, and what you can do is you can make an account with the Lexus owner's website and take any used Lexus that you are interested in, take that VIN number, enter that into this website as if it's your own car, and give it a moment, just kind of play around with the website, because it takes a while for it to register the vehicle that you just inputted into this website. Just click around for a minute or 2, and then you can look up the maintenance history for that particular car, and you can also see the actual maintenance schedule for that particular Lexus. So in this case, I looked up a 2015 RCF, and I understand that the 60,000 mile maintenance period seems to be one of the more expensive service periods, mainly because you have to replace the differential fluids, brake fluids, along with spark plugs. You have to do that along with the regular oil change and filters, etc. That seems to cost around $1,200 to $1,500 to do that 60,000 mile service, and the rest of the services, they seem to be pretty basic and normal, nothing too crazy. You can do some of the things yourself, like your oil changes and stuff. So all things considered, for a performance car, it's not terrible. But if the wrong people go out and they buy this car thinking, oh, it's just a Toyota, yeah, you can be burned pretty quick, because they're buying this stuff on payments, and anything pops up, it can be really detrimental for them. I mean, you have to keep in mind natural things like tires as well. You know, you're gonna have to replace that on a performance car like this, and that can cost well over $1,000 for a full set of good, high quality performance tires, along with your oil changes, brake pads, etc. In my humble opinion, I think if you're gonna buy this car, buy it CPO from Lexus. That's number one, the best thing that you can do, because that way, if you really like the car, after that warranty period ends, you can buy another warranty from Lexus themselves, and it shouldn't cost too much money. And in general, because this is a Japanese car, I don't think the warranty is going to cost an absolute fortune. I think like pre-pandemic, someone was saying that their credit union was offering them like a 6-year bumper to bumper warranty on an RCF for $1,300 or $1,600. So that was pre-pandemic. Even if you pay $3,000 for a warranty that's prorated and it's bumper to bumper and it will cover you for at least 5 years on this RCF, I think that's a pretty good deal, all things considered, because I hate the way people say, oh, this is just a Toyota, as if they're comparing this RCF to Corolla levels of maintenance and repairs. That's just not cool, and I hate the way people misrepresent these types of cars. These are still expensive luxury vehicles with a ton of electronics, sensors, and things of that nature. So just bear that in mind when you go to purchase something like this. Next, let's talk about the RCF market and the pricing, and if it's worth it or not. Okay, the original MSRP of a 2015 RCF is $62,400. Today, the MSRP of a 2023 RCF is around $68,000. But the big difference is, between 2015 and 2017, Lexus could not sell these cars for the life of them. Like, nobody wanted it. Reviews from Jeremy Clarkson, Doug DeMiro, that didn't help. I'm sure that impacted a lot of people's buying decision. And in general, most people just do not respect Lexus, their performance cars, or really any Japanese car for that matter. Everyone tends to gravitate towards European cars, you know, your M3s, your AMGs, etc. And when the car doesn't add up on paper and you're shelling out $60,000, $70,000, yeah, most people who have money find that to be unacceptable. They feel like they're not getting their money's worth when they buy one of these products. That's one of the greatest misconceptions with these cars. They fail to understand that a lot of these Lexus products transcend spec sheets, and they have a unique and charismatic driving feel to them. I'll save that more towards the conclusion segment, but because they had such an issue moving these units when they first came out, there were massive discounts. I'm talking about $15,000, $20,000 off of MSRP. So the people who bought like a $70,000, $75,000 RCF back in 2015, they were able to walk away with that car for around $50,000 or $55,000 brand new. And then you come here today, looking at the used car market, these things are trading for $40,000, $50,000 with insane mileage on them. And a 2015 RCF today is now 8 years old. The cheapest new RCF on Car Gurus, when I filtered out all of the accident cars and the salvage titles, the reason why I do that is because you don't want to buy an accident car, as that really hinders the resale value of a vehicle. Plus, you have no idea how that body shop put that car back together. It'll never be back to that OEM spec, so that can also cause issues down the road. So always filter out the accident cars, and the cheapest RCF costs $34,972, and it's got over 80,000 miles on it. And these cars with around 60,000 miles, 35,000 miles, whatever, prices are all over the place, but the decent ones are around $45,000 to $55,000. And as you can see, that's what most people were paying when these things were brand new. A lot of people, when they buy a used car, they somehow think they're getting one over on the system. That is absolutely not the case. Most people are just not savvy enough to find the new car discounts along with the incentives. Obviously, none of that exists today in the post-pandemic market, but pre-pandemic, when these cars first came out, massive discounts, massive incentives for leasing, for financing, all that stuff. So the prices that you see here for these used ones, these 8-year-old cars with several thousand miles on it, this is what people were paying for these cars when they were new. Now, 2018 and afterwards, when Lexus realized that nobody was really buying these cars, they really cut down the production of these vehicles, and they no longer offered those crazy incentives. Because the problem with a car company marking down their vehicles to that extent is it really devalues their brand. It makes their car look cheap and it's not a good look, so they just cut the production significantly and they just offered a few incentives here and there. No crazy dealer discounts. But yes, there was a time when people were buying these cars cheap and they were leasing them out cheap as well, under $700 a month lease payments. So in my opinion, when I go through Car Gurus and I'm looking at these prices, I just have a hard time paying this amount of money for like an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old car. It simply does not sit well with me, especially since you have to add in the taxes, the tags, the fees, all that good stuff on top of maintenance, on top of insurance, on top of potential repairs, things of that nature, because these cars tend to be out of warranty. So you either have to budget for repairs or you have to budget for a warranty on top of the prices that you see in the used market right now. The people who bought these cars used pre-pandemic, those people got a great deal on the car because it was 3 years newer and it had a lot less mileage, and they were paying almost the same price, if not less, than what you see today. So buying a CPO, F car, an RCF, a GSF before 2020 was a good move, was an intelligent purchase, but today, not so much. So what can you do about it? What are some alternatives? Well, I'll show you in this next segment. Okay, when you go on Lexus's own website, you can obviously build a brand new RCF, and as I mentioned before, it starts at around $68,000. After I got done building it, adding the premium package, the Mark Levinson audio, etc., the RCF I built ended up costing $79,300. And today there are no real discounts. Today there are no real incentives, there are no good lease deals, nothing like that. Plus, interest rates are now through the roof. That's the other thing. You go to buy one of those used RCFs, you're going to be paying like 10-12% interest, who knows, in today's market. That's another thing to keep in mind. Even a brand new RCF, you're looking at probably over 5% interest if you wanted to finance this car. And as I stated before in my other videos, when you finance a car, the way they do it here in the United States, they front load all of the interest. So the payments that you're making, it goes primarily towards interest and very little to the principal. So after 3 years, 4 years of you making payments, you have very little equity in the car when you finance it. And this is why so many people end up underwater on their cars. So if you're buying one of these, I would suggest you pay cash for it. Obviously, not everyone can do that, so that's pretty sad. Anyway, alternatives, you can really look into a brand new 2023 IS500 F Sport Premium model. This is the fully loaded IS500 with the same V8 with the 8-speed automatic. And when I spec'd this out, it was a little under $65,000. That is $15,000 cheaper than a new RCF, and maybe like $10,000 more expensive than those 8-year-old RCFs that we saw on Car Gurus. Except the difference is this car is brand new, under full warranty, and it's not clapped out or anything like that. Plus it's got 2 extra doors, so it's just a little bit more practical. Not to say that the RCF is impractical. For a coupe, it's really not bad. Even I can fit in the rear seats of an RCF at 5'11", so it's really not terrible. And the trunk is pretty massive as well with the RCF. So no problems there, but I'm just showing you a brand new vehicle that's still a Lexus and has pretty much the same performance, except a lot of RCF fanboys and fangirls like to make this point, it doesn't have the oil coolers and the transmission coolers, so you can't track it. I had no idea the Starbucks drive-thru was a track. It's true this car does not have any of those things, but nor do you need it for street driving. I hate how logic completely escapes people when it comes to cars. Nobody is really tracking these vehicles, and the few people that are, well, I guess you don't have a choice. You have to buy an RCF. And initially, I never understood why people were so interested in tracking a 4,000 pound luxury car until a good subscriber of mine, Daryl, told me in the comment section that people want to track their daily drivers because they don't want or they can't afford to buy a separate track car. And actually that made sense to me. This way you only have the upkeep and the insurance payment and all that for one car. And the RCF is a peculiar vehicle in that it is actually dependable. It's naturally aspirated with that V8 engine. It does have those oil coolers and transmission coolers, etc. So theoretically, that is one of the few cars that you can buy where you can daily it and you can track it at the same time. Because make no mistake, the RCF has no compromises out on the street. Yes, it is significantly softer than cars like the M3, but it makes it so comfortable in the real world. It's reasonably quiet, great features, amazing audio system with that Mark Levinson. And as I mentioned before, practicality is not bad. On top of that, you could track it with the oil coolers, etc. But I always had in my mind that people were reluctant to do that because now they're racking up the miles on the track, and that's going to cause your car to deteriorate and cause reliability issues for you. So I figured some people wouldn't like doing that. But if you're one of those few people that will track the car, yes, RCF will make sense. If you're not going to track it, it's an absolute waste of money. You're better off with a brand new IS500, especially with the current used car pricing. You can also look into buying a brand new Chevrolet Camaro LT1 with a V8 engine. You can get that for less than $40,000 with a manual transmission. One of the best manual transmissions, mind you. So I would rather buy one of these newer vehicles, especially in this market. And if you wanted an IS500, what I would do is I would do a national search on CarGurus and I would sort by the oldest listings first. So find the one that's been sitting on the lot for the longest and negotiate a $3,000 or $4,000 discount. See if they go for that, and if they do, that's going to be one of the best deals in the new car market right now. The final source I'm going to share with you is Edmunds.com. You can come over here and you can look at the various model year changes for every year of any car. Okay, I like to use Edmunds because you can look at the new features that a manufacturer brings up for every different model year. I think Edmunds does a good job of breaking that down for you rather easily. 2015, the RCF comes out, and 2016, you have some minor infotainment upgrades as well as orange painted brake calipers that's also available to you. 2017, RCF receives adaptive suspension and Scout GPS. 2018, you got some new technology upgrades and some new safety packages as well, which is now standard. 2019, they introduced some limited anniversary edition. In 2020, that's the big year where they kind of redesign it, and I really like this redesigned look. But 2020, they also bring out the track editions. They revised the chassis to be a little bit sportier, as well as calibrate the suspension. And we also get a subtle bump in power along with a minor reduction in weight. So that's what you get in 2020. The track editions, honestly, that's something to look into because the track editions are over $100,000 when they're brand new. They're around $80,000 used for a decent 2021 or a 2022. So those, in my opinion, are probably the only RCFs worth buying in the used market. If you really like this car, then getting a $20,000 discount on a track model is pretty great. Albeit, I've heard from some respectable journalists, people that you would actually look up to. They have said that it's really made no difference and it feels identical to the regular RCFs. In fact, feeling-wise, RCF, GSF, IS500, they all literally feel the same. If you want something that feels different, you have to step up to the LC500. And I don't have time right now to illustrate to you why the LC500 is special. I've done that in multiple other videos in the past. But if you absolutely love the RCF, you're better off buying one of these, used track editions at 80 grand, preferably a 2022 model year, than buying a new RCF or obviously buying a new $100,000 track edition car. And then really 2023, that last model year, that's when they introduced that touchscreen. So something to look into. And I forgot to mention this, if you like the looks of this car and you like the essence of this vehicle and the feeling of it, you can get a lot of this in the RC350 F Sport as well. Granted, you can also get it in the IS350 F Sport, because from the factory, these F cars, they are very quiet. So mainly what you get on top of the RC350 is going to be the speed of the RCF, but it's so muffled from the factory. You have to wake these cars up with an exhaust, and that's an additional expense to you, but it really wakes up the car and it really sounds phenomenal at that point. Hopefully I woke you up to the reality of new car purchasing and what people were paying for these cars when they first came out by getting $15,000, $20,000 off of MSRP between the years of 2015 and 2017. But I do like these cars. I enjoy driving them. It's just financially, it's really hard for me to recommend. But otherwise, I actually prefer driving the RCF compared to the F80 M3 I tested. Yes, the M3s and the AMGs will run circles around these F cars, but I love the daily drivability of the RCF along with that charismatic engines, the induction noises, how quiet it is, the great stereo, the high quality interior. There's a lot to love with these RCFs, GSFs, etc. Just put an exhaust on it and it's great. They look great as well. And if you're set on buying one, get it with a warranty. Make sure it's pro-rated. That way you get a portion of that warranty money refunded back to you if you ever decide to sell it. RCF can also make sense if you decide to track the car. And also let us know in the comment section, if you are an owner and you're unbiased, let us know your experience with the car as well. And if you found value with this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Take care and goodbye.